comment?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the sort of the two polar extremes that we feel within our, within sort of the American culture, the strong arm of the American culture. You have the good and you have the bad, and we really tend to isolate the good and the bad. And as we were talking about that, it's really, as we talk about restorative justice and everything like that, we really push away everything that's bad. Oh, that attitude's bad. Oh, that person's bad. Oh, that's a bad action. And for any bad act, it's like, we just classify it and shove it away and said, no, we don't want to be part of that because we so have to be good. You talked about the yin and the yang, and it's like, we can't do that. That is ultimately part of who we are, as part of human. That badness, that destructiveness, that temptation, whatever you want to call it, whatever vocabulary you use, that is part of us, and we've had such a tendency to push it away, whereas, on the basis of restorative justice, is to pull it closer to us, saying, this is real, this is part of who we are, we need to accept that, the leave it to beaver, talk about the good, leave the bad away, but yet women love outlaws, look at the good, we don't know about that. And when you embrace the bad, what is seen as destructive, it takes away that curiosity, it takes away the mystique, it takes away from the rebelliousness of it. It embraces us as a whole human, completes the yin and the yang. As Dave Throgmorton was saying, with listening to the young, we always say, you don't know enough, you don't know what you're talking about. We're pushing that away, and then we expect to get it back. Same thing with, the judicial system. We push them away, and then at some time we expect to come and, bring them back. Whereas, they feel violated as being pushed away. They don't feel human because of being pushed away. You don't belong with us because they've been pushed away. As well, there's just, the throwaway kids. We always talk about that. Again, it's really grabbing them as a person, saying, I know you're a person. Let's work through this. I know this is part of who you are. Let's look at it. Let's examine it, as Stacy was saying, and really talked about it with the community. So that, I guess that's what really struck to me when you asked the question about, the two polar extremes, and trying to bring them together. It's accepting people as humans. I do a lot with tolerance, and that's one of the things that we do. Working for the Aspen Gay and Lesbian Community Fund and, being involved with the Christian community, you get the two extremes of saying, that's wrong. It's like, they're human, and it's for their safety that we need to be concerned with that. And for any Christian concern, they should be concerned too, because they are human, and we need to embrace for who they are so they can develop to be the greatest person.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to check time. How are we doing on time? 5 to 2. Do we have 5 minutes? Yes. So we have 5 minutes, and we need to go to closure, and I need these comments, last comments. 14 minutes. Okay. So please, Sarah.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Pletz. Many of you know me, and I want to start off here with a statement that the people who started this country were outlaws. They were out of the law because the law was not aligned with the real law. So where is the real law? I really walk a path of very deep love. And I could say to you, please don't walk into a voting booth and write down and check for someone that you don't know who's going to continue to fund a system that does not support us all. I could say don't do that. I could do the don't path. But instead, if we stay in the loving path and we just check to see, who the Iroquois say, in this act that I do I support the 7 generations that come after me in every action that I take? And to not be dissuaded by you're supposed to vote if you're a citizen or anything, that just make sure that that act, as best as we can, supports love. I just want to say, as a teacher, I have had a man with a steel pipe over my head on the street of New York, this far from my head. And I looked into his eyes, and I made a heart connection, and I walked him into the front of a store, and he ran away. I had a child for an hour and a half try to hit me. And that kid almost got to me. He almost got to me. And I almost had a bad judging thought about him, and I didn't, and I got a ski hat on him, and I got outside, and we skied all day, and at the end of one short day, that child, when he was leaving, ran up to me to give a kiss, and his mother said to me, he has never done that. So love is really powerful, and it's the only thing, if you ask me.
Great, thank you, sir. Time, we have... we need to do a closing piece. Dr. Will Evans is going to do us in a guided piece. So, Susie, you have a quick comment?
Do you want me to do it after to make sure there's enough time?
Yeah. So, I want to do a little closing here. Thank the grassroots team for doing an excellent job with the technical part. Thank everybody for coming. We appreciate that. We're going to have Dr. Evans is going to do a closing piece, and we're going to work this afternoon, not on tape. It's going to be a more intimate environment to share our truths. I'm sure there are voices here that would like to say something in that environment. So as Will's doing a little technical adjustment, are there any other comments to close the day? Peter?
Yeah. I'm the father of one of the boys that was one of the 12 teens, and I have to say right now that I'm held back. There's so much I can't say. My son is up for sentencing on March 12th. Is he guilty of what he did? Maybe. Probably of some of it, but not what he was charged with. I've had some hypocrisy here. I've heard some people say they were here to help all the kids. Well, I've had some people here, I don't want to say who, because maybe their intentions were good, that went against my son, that did not stand and help him, did not look to where he might be going to, looked at their own situation instead. I had my son's own friends turned against him. Hard to believe, because they knew where he was going might get them a better deal. And so I'm a victim. My son is a victim now of something that, not necessarily what he did, but of something greater and beyond what he did that's leading into this time. And I'm very hurt by it, and but forget about it, I mean, much more than hurt, and I'm nervous to even talk now about this. But I like what Connie said before, the world she's trying to achieve, but it's not available. It's not happening right now, and I hope it does happen. I hope it can happen. But I have so much more to say, and you have so little time here, and I know you want to close. But I have a right to freedom of speech. I have a right to freedom of the press, and I cannot exercise it now. Nor can my son, because it would threaten that which he has a right to. He exercised his rights to plead not guilty and had compassion in one trial and not in the other, as there were some things that turned against him, some untruths that were told. Probably by everybody involved, defense, prosecution, everybody. You would think prosecution wouldn't have that right, but it should be more honorable. But nevertheless, it came up, and it went against my son, and we have to face that now. But we did not have the help from some of the people here that spoke today, or one of the people that spoke today, and it should have happened. And once again, I can't say too much because I feel this might threaten my son's situation. And so I will have to lay back. But I guess I will have much more to say after all this is over, in the hope that there is compassion within the system for my son, for all the kids. My son chose not to tell anybody. He figured it was up to them to tell them themselves. And he was raised as a warrior that way, because that's the world he might come into. He is somebody who was in a paddy field with 12 guys and was captured, wouldn't tell on everybody else, because that would be a threat to them. He would have an understanding. And that's the world he's going to face should he ever get drafted, should we decide to send him to war, which we probably will be doing again, more than likely. It's not all behind us and not in front of us. And that is the kid he was. And he made a mistake. But did he make the mistake he was charged with? No. Was he found guilty of things that were exaggerated? Greatly. Did he do wrong things? Absolutely. But I'm held back here now. And it's not right for me to be held back. But I have to be. I cannot exercise my rights. And I hope that later on I'll get a chance to explain and tell a whole story, a true whole story, because that's the one we'd like to do. In order to defend ourselves, we can't. But I hope that I can beyond this. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I know it's difficult to do that. I appreciate your courage.
February 22nd is George Washington's birthday. This is intentional. We want to honor the vision of this great founding father of our country. He once said, "I now make it my earnest prayer that God would incline the hearts of the citizens to entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another, and finally, that he would most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind which are the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion. Without a humble imitation of whose example in these things, we can never hope to be a happy nation." George Washington, in a circular letter to the state governors, expressing his hopes for the future of the United States upon the disbanding of the Revolutionary Army in 1783.